Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video, I have completed most of the Grim Forest on hard difficulty on the test server, and I want to walk you through. I went into this basically totally blind, and I want to walk you through in this video building my decks. What I did that worked well, what went badly, what would I change, what am I going to do on the live servers. This should be live in-game within the next day or two. I think it's due out on Wednesday or Thursday. Not sure exactly when, but somewhere around then. What am I actually going to do there? And for subsequent rotations, I don't know if it's going to be the same rotation, by the way. All these things might be in different places on the live game, etc. But there are a few constants, so let's go. I am going to be talking about hard difficulty here, where we've got to have 20 champions on each side. For normal difficulty, you're going to want to do the same stuff I'm suggesting, but you can be, because you're going to have fewer champions to choose from, you're going to get the ones that you want more consistently, so you'll need fewer. But I'm going to break down some of the key buffs and debuffs that you want to bring on both sides, etc. So here we go. So number one, one strategy you could do, like when I go into a fight, maybe I've not done this one. Here we go. Perfect. So when I go into a fight, it's going to pick, depending on the difficulty of the stage, it's going to pick a certain number of champions from each deck. So because this is a yellow stage on hard, it's going to pick 8 champions from each of my decks. I get 1 extra champion because I found there's one altar there. I think it's called the Aid Altar. There's one on the entire map. When you find that Aid Altar, it will give you 1 additional draft. To be honest, it doesn't make a huge difference apart from like these purple regions where I've got 7 champions to choose from, and that's it. So good luck. The purple region is insanely hard. We're not going to worry too much about that. Like if you can't do it, I wouldn't beat yourself up about it too much on it. But you'll be in a good spot if you follow the tips in this video. But it's pretty tough, right? It's pretty rough. So it's going to pick champions from both decks for each different stage. One strategy that you can do, but I don't think it's too important, is to fill 1 deck with damage dealers and then 1 deck with supports. What I did here is I tried to do pretty balanced, and you can actually see I picked fairly like from like champions. So I picked like Lazarius, oh, I'll pick an Arbiter. Sifi, oh, I'll pick a Freya. Okay, Rotus, oh, I'll throw in the Thor. Right, Empress and Nice. You got Gallius and Marius. Lydia and Nell. You know, I picked pretty similar stuff, generally speaking, across both decks. I try to really balance it out. To be honest, it works mostly fine. I don't think it actually really matters too much about filling 1 deck with damage and 1 with supports. I think it's more important to have good coverage of these buffs and debuffs, which is probably going to mean having a more of a mix. Actually, it's probably going to be better for you. So let me cover some examples. So one of the things you're really going to want, block debuffs, and this is going to be a general tip as well, is you're going to generally want to be building for the bosses, which I know is tough because you're like, nub, there's 7 new bosses. Like, that's a heck of a lot for me to know month 1. Like, I get you. But multiple champions with block debuffs is extremely important. Several of these bosses will just wreck you. So for instance, where is he? Let's say that this guy, right? What does this guy do? He has AoE freeze and steals all your turn meter if you're frozen on a 3-turn cooldown. Then he has a 3-turn cooldown, decrease attack and decrease defense. Then his A1 is a 2-turn AoE provoke. Passively, whenever you hit him, he has a 40% chance to freeze you, and he decreases your speed by 50% if you're frozen. How do we beat him? Actually, pretty simple. We get block debuffs up the whole time. We're good. We're good. He's good. So no problem. Job done. Many of the bosses, like in fact, every boss, right? Like Vampire Chick, she's got some nasty stuff. What's she gonna do? So she can remove all your buffs, but it's Master Seal block passive skills. That's kind of nasty. If you got protection sets, you could have your block debuffs protected. She can't remove it, can't place these. That can be really nice as well. There's the poison guy, covers you in poisons. To be honest, block debuffs is just very important for a lot of the tough bosses. So definitely bring some chance at that. I think you're also going to want champions that remove debuffs. So for example, I think the poison boss is very nasty and you could really get stuck on it. Where is he? I think he's over here for me. But yeah, what's nasty about him, bunch of poisons equal to number of skills on cooldown. He's going to put out a bunch of poisons, going to increase your stuff and explode poisons, bunch of poisons. The nasty thing, though, is whenever he is attacked, he decreases the duration of all your buffs. If you weak hit, it decreases them by 2 turns. Pretty nasty, and yeah, he's kind of a pain. And if you don't draft in your block debuffs, certainly I found running this guy, I ran 2 champions with block debuffs, and I was very happy to have removed debuffs with Ancora in there as well for that extra layer of safety. And on that, he's pretty now. I think he's arguably one of the hardest ones. Very difficult to deal with, but you're gonna have some pretty tough fights. So like you're gonna fight, I don't know, like let's say, yeah, like Nishak's another good example here, right? He's a boss. Any of the stages where you've got the champion as the big portrait, they are a boss, which means that they're immune to cooldown increase. They're immune to like all crowd control. So this Nishak, he is going to try to bomb you, and you can't stop him. Mashald is going to try to true fear your whole team, and you can't stop it from happening unless you got block debuffs or you've got high resistance champion who can remove those debuffs from you. Both of these are incredibly useful. You want lots of champs with them. Healing is actually really important. I think this is probably the game mode where healing is maybe the most important. I think part of that is that some of the bosses, like if their mechanics go through, they will just do damage to you. But particularly, I'd say this guy. This guy is a nightmare. So the way the treasure goblin works, you have to fight him multiple times. But he has this goal. I could just throw it. Let's just whatever throw in a fight here. I'll put in Androck. Actually, let me not put in. Let me just put in damage, and we'll see if he can do it alone, right? And let me put in her for like decreased defense, and let's put in, I don't know, Mikage for a fun little ally attack, just so you can see, right? But this guy and a few of the bosses, but this guy is particularly bad. Once he gets his gold plates up, every time you explode a gold plate, you've got so much damage coming in at you. And you fight this boss multiple times in multiple places. You're going to want a heck of a lot of healing to deal with them, because you're just gonna get wrecked. Like you'll see, like the damage that comes back at you can be absolutely crazy. And for several of these bosses as well, it's kind of, I would generally describe a lot of these, but like look at this. You see, like yeah. For a lot of these bosses, it comes down to like bring in 1 or 2 champions to deal with their key mechanics. So for example, with the skeleton guy I showed you with like all those debuffs on every single attack, like look at this, right? Look at this. All the debuffs in every single attack. What do you want to do? Well, if we bring the block debuffs and we bring debuff removal, okay, we're protected from that. Then we can just sort of slowly and steadily kill him. It's not a huge deal. But we need healing to stay alive through the damage that he's doing. You know, if I don't keep HP burn up on him, he can reflect and whatnot. But we can see here, like this is pretty rough. Like our team is getting kind of wrecked. Funny enough, I think, is Predator still evading or what? I don't even know how he's evading stuff. But let's see. Marius is very good for. Here we go. Marius loves smashing plates, and smashing plates loves killing us. But yeah, like there's just a lot of damage coming in. This isn't even the hardest version of this guy, and I've got very good gear. So bringing in healers can be extremely helpful to deal with it. So yeah, I'd recommend a good bit of healing. Increase speed and then revive. So again, revive for lots of these bosses can kind of wreck you because you quite limited in some of the champions that you have available to pick at any given time. Having revivers gives you a huge layer of safety for many of the bosses. And many of the bosses that particularly rely on placing lots of debuffs, if you have a team revive champion, like Raka Viletide would be a great example. Duchess Lilitu would be a great example. Like the boss might simply not be able to kill your reviver. You can just revive your whole team and potentially keep going. And then increased speed is good for pretty much every single wave and every single boss. It's like super important. You take more turns, life is much better for you. And you also, by the way, gain I've got 37 bonus speed right here. You're going to gain a nice chunk of extra speed, which you can then multiply increased speed, which is great. So yeah, these are the 5 positive things for your team that I would try to have a few champions with it. Like I would really try to have like, you know, Pythion and Elva, like a couple of great ones in there. Sifi, not bad. Ancora, all these beautiful tanky revivers, champions to just keep you alive with healing and protecting from debuffs, reviving, and increased speed. Yeah, big. Then for your debuffs, I've got a few here. Decreased defense for many of the bosses. So particularly, let's say the Mimic, which is a damage race. I don't have one of the key debuffs for doing this, but like I can show you that we're gonna want lots of damage. Luckily he's void, so I don't really need to think about it too much. But I'll put him in as well, and sure, we'll put in Rotus. Let's go. Not enough energy. Oh well, never mind. But yeah, decreased defense is just gonna help you beat some of these bosses quickly, which is gonna be helpful. So it's one of the things where, like, for so many dungeons and Doom Tower bosses and stuff, I just use like Lydia. But it can be surprising how few decreased defense champions you might actually have. One thing that you can combine that with, block buffs. So I'm talking about champions like Ugo, Granite, yeah, any champions that are bringing block buffs, this is incredibly, incredibly valuable. Several of the bosses can steal your buffs. Obviously, lots of enemies and waves, if they get buffs up, they're going to be very nasty. We've got, for example, the vampire chick. What does she do? She puts 4 continuous heal buffs on herself for 3 turns, and then she'll activate them. It's really much better if you block those. I would highly recommend blocking them. Block buffs is incredibly good. You want a few champs. You want to basically have a good chance to pull a block buff champion against most content here. Removing buffs is also extremely valuable. So from the poison boss, removing his poison cloud. If any bosses steal your buffs, having some champs that remove buffs is very, very nice. Heal reduction is a big one. Like if I zoom out, you'll see I've skipped a lot of the, I guess, I started skipping a lot of these mimic fights because they're quite difficult if you don't have heal reduction. If you do have heal reduction, it becomes incredibly easy, funny enough. But the mimic, basically, his whole thing, he summons a mini mimic. At the start of his turn, he heals 20... Well, I've gone to the wrong place. Here it is. At the start of the mimic's turn, the boss's turn, he heals 25% max HP. That's a heck of a lot. We also have the vampire chick, who I pointed out has a ton of self-healing. There are some of these really nasty stages, like Marishka, Arix even, a few of these, where, again, Riho, where you can't stop them, potentially, from healing. It can be quite nasty now. Very few champions are protected heal reduction, so some champions can remove it. But nonetheless, this is very helpful against many bosses, particularly the Mimic, which you will fight multiple times. And without heal reduction, it's a real nightmare. So I'd be looking to bring several champions, at least 2, 1 in each deck with heal reduction, to give me a pretty good chance whenever I see a Mimic fight. Let's find a Mimic fight that I haven't done. This one over here. I click Draw Champions. I want to have a pretty good chance to get at least 1 heal reduction champion. So otherwise, I'm going to have to redraw searching for it, and that's kind of annoying. And then I also want decreased speed and HP burn. I'd be looking to get a couple of champs of those. Again, decreased speed is another key debuff for the Mimic and for the final boss. HP burn is a key debuff for the poison guy. It's quite useful against the poison boss, and it's also very important against the final boss as well. So a couple of champs at HP burn is going to put you in a pretty good spot, and it's not super useful part. In fact, I could probably change that a little bit. I could say you definitely want to have champs with burn, definitely. And these are more optional ones. So yeah, I probably put these somewhat. Okay, if I'm putting them in order, maybe this. I'd actually put decreased defense a little bit lower, to be honest. I put that down here, and yeah, I probably put it. This would probably be a pretty good order. And over here, this actually feels pretty good to me as well. That probably would be my rough order of stuff that's sort of essential to bring. So yeah, again, I'd be looking to have copies of these really in both sides of the team deck would be my goal. To have copies on both sides. Because, when I come and fight the Mimic, I want to have increased speed for the Mimic so I can cycle around. I want to have heal reduction to stop him healing. And I want to have decreased speed. I probably want decreased defense so I can kill him pretty quickly as well. Well, if I'm relying on my supports to bring these things, which is pretty common, I have to get lucky. Like if I have all my supports in the one deck and I only get 5 champions from that deck and I need to have all 4 of those abilities, I might have to get quite lucky unless I've got some damage dealers with it as well. So I think it's a bit easier and probably easier to track as well if you just go, okay, you know what? I want to make sure I've got, I'll put Elva on one side, I'll put Python on the other. Okay, cool. Maybe let's find another couple of champions like that. I'll put Raka and I'll put, I don't know, like I put Sifi. I'll split them up so I've got a couple on each side. That might be like a bit of an easier way to do it, to be honest, especially for the first month. just to make sure you've got a good coverage of these key things. I would bring some champions with these things as well. These are buffs that are worth considering. So shield and block damage. I mean, you saw the freaking treasure goblin. That dude is by far the most lethal bot. Funny enough, again, with the treasure goblin, you'll pretty quickly realize that the dude, he doesn't do much. Like, his active attacks, they're kind of annoying, but they're not really doing that much. It's really just these gold plates exploding are absolutely decimating you. They rip you apart, as you saw. Like, they absolutely rip you apart. You can stop that with block damage. Just do watch out. He can steal buffs, so that's a bit awkward. But if you've got block buffs, if you've got buff removal, that's fine. But yeah, block damage can be nice. That could also help you a lot against the poison boss, because the poison damage can be really nasty. So I do think block damage could be quite decent. Unkillable could be decent enough as well. Shields is also really good. Strengthen could work too. Actually, I'll throw that in as well. Like, Strengthen is really pretty decent to give you a bit of damage reduction. Other general stuff that's definitely worth bringing. So turn meter increase is obviously just generally really strong against like every fight. It's also particularly good against the final boss. So the final boss, he will ensnare somebody. They basically get locked out of the fight. Your fastest champion gets locked out of the fight, and they cannot gain turn meter. They can only get it from champions who boost turn meter actively. So for example, I could use Lammasu. I could use her A3 twice to fill up. It was Lazarius of getting controlled. I could use it twice on Lazarius to boost him up. He also places a debuff called Siphon. So Lammasu is kind of nice for that as well, because she could also remove all the debuffs. So she'd remove the Siphon, and then the second use would remove the Entangle. Actually didn't end up mattering in this case, but it was there. So that is pretty nice. Turn meter increase is good to bring. Buff and debuff extension, very, very nice as well. So buff extension, again, for the bosses where you want block debuffs up all the time, this makes it so much easier. You just keep block debuffs up the whole time. Keep increased speed up the whole time. Very, very helpful. Debuff extension is helpful as well when you want to maintain heal reduction, block buffs, decrease speed, HP burn, decrease defense even. They can be kind of difficult to keep up, so a bit of debuff extension is quite useful. And then freeze is nice as well, specifically for the fire guy. It'll also help you with waves, but a good freeze champion is nice. This fire boss gets 20% turn meter whenever he's attacked by an enemy without HP burn, and that's per hit. He gets 20% turn meter per hit, so if I double hit the guy, I know, like let's say Wallmaster Atharion double hits him with his A2, he gains 40% turn meter if he doesn't have freeze. So a freeze champion is pretty nifty to deal with him. Again, you don't need lots, but you want maybe one per side of your deck. It's probably not too bad. The freeze champions are going to be, if you've got a good freeze champion, it's going to help you with the waves as well. So there you go. Just watch out. He's always magic affinity. I use Fjorad. He weak hit a bit, but it didn't really matter in this case. But yeah, those are some tips. So yeah. Broadly speaking, what am I trying to do? I actually think building a balanced deck is easier to track, but it doesn't matter too much. You could balance out the deck, and then you could move all your damage dealers to one side after if you needed. But my bigger goal, I actually don't think it matters too much. You get a pretty good selection of champions, but generally, these are, I think, the most beneficial positive effects, and these are the most beneficial negative effects and debuffs. They're really, really good. Actually, you know what? A bit of turn meter decrease doesn't go astray either. Wave enemies are very susceptible to turn meter decrease. Most bosses are immune to decreased speed and turn meter decrease, but the final boss and the mimic will both take them are both vulnerable to decreased speed, and they both are 50% effectiveness turn meter decrease. So it's not useless. It is nice to have, and it will help you a bit with the waves. But these ones are, like, for the most part, not essential. In fact, let me put freeze up here as something that you want to bring. Let's say, I don't know, now, what we'll do, split this into optional, but good. And here we go. So these are, I would say, optional but good. I would say these are optional but good as well. Turn meter increase, I would definitely bring some. And I would definitely bring some of both of these as well, but they're not too crazy. And then I bring lots of copies of these. That feels probably actually about right to me. Yeah, there we go. I think that's a good place to be. So my little cheat sheet, get you started, guys. Lots of block debuffs, remove debuffs, healing. Uh, let's also put in damage, just to point that out. Damage, and let's put in like wave control. You're going to want some champions that are good against waves. So, for example, Fabian's not really helping much against any of the bosses. I'd probably bring a Fabian anyway, because he's so stupidly good against the waves. It's worth doing. Yeah, so I bring some champions that are good for waves, but at least a couple. There's no harm. Like you could put Fabian in one deck and Armand's in another, and like, yeah, that's actually what I did. And there you go. As a quick run through, final little tip then. Which of these champions did I use? Which should I not use much? I used Lazarius loads, Sifi quite a bit, Rotus a good bit. Empress I only really use for wait. He's not great against bosses. And I didn't use him, especially because he has no blessing. I didn't use him too much. He is very good against waves, though. Gallius I used against bosses and waves. He was very helpful. Carnage is actually very, very helpful, particularly for the harder stages, but good against bosses and waves as damage. Lydia used a ton. She's amazing. More for bosses than for waves, but she's really good. Use Michelangelo, actually a surprising amount. Fiorad was one of my most used. This might surprise you. Mikey was good because he's a damage dealer with lots of utility. That's very relevant pretty much every fight. Fiorad, guys, Fiorad is super good. If we look at our key buffs and debuffs here, yeah, he brings block debuffs and increased speed. He also brings, forgot to put this in, cooldown reduction. He brings that as well, which is great. And he brings freeze, which is really good for wave control. So Fiorad was amazing. I used him loads. Androck, again, he's bringing you like healing, stuff like this. Actually, something else I should put in as optional, but good, would be increase resistance and decrease accuracy. I think these are actually very strong as well. Maybe a little advanced for the first month because we don't know yet until data mining comes in. And by then you probably want to have drafted your decks already. But possibly, I do think high resist strategies are pretty darn strong. So I used him a lot. Use Fabian for the waves. Didn't use Tholen at all, but he would be good because he's 6-star. I used Predator for the waves, but didn't need him. Ninja was helpful, actually, for the bosses with Burn and for Mimic. So Ninja's great, actually. And he's good for waves, too. So Ninja was really good. I'll definitely bring him. Mikage, I didn't use her too much. One of the problems is it can be a little bit awkward to get Mikage in with a Shadowkin to benefit. Like, it's just a bit awkward. It depends how many Shadowkin you have, damage dealers. Like, if you got Ninja and Toshiro, he's going to be real good. Or Harima, yeah, it should be great. But I did find it a little tricky to use Mikage. That being said, I do think she'd be quite helpful. Does good damage, buff manipulation. But I didn't find that I needed the damage too much. I didn't use her that much. Idol used a bit for waves. That was about it. Donatello used tons, just generally a really strong support. Used him a lot. I used Atharion quite a bit. He's pretty good. Block buffs, damage dealer, self buffs is nice. Used Chris loads for the waves, and he was okay for bosses, but not essential. Lamasu really solid. Didn't use Arbiter once. I used Freya a couple of times, not too much. Used Thor a couple of times, but he wasn't actually that helpful. Nice was only all right. Really good for the waves, like the really difficult waves. That was about it. Marius was amazing. Frolny, I used a couple of times. He was just bad. She was actually mostly helpful, just for the decreased defense and weaken. Nell was good for that. Leonardo actually wasn't that impactful either. Again, he's pretty much just bringing damage. Lady Noelle and Sir Nick are both really good. Now, if you get them together, they're insane. Kind of difficult to get them together, though. But they are very, very solid. So they are probably worth popping in. And if you get lucky and get them together, it's like, yeah, amazing. Might be better to split them up into the two decks. Basically, the idea would be, let's say I've got 3 picks from each deck. If I pull Lady Noelle on my first pull over here, I mean, it all happens simultaneously. But if Lady Noelle is over here, and Sir Nick is in the same deck, there's only 2 spots for the Sir Nick to go. Whereas if he's in here, there'd be 3 spots for him to go. So I think you're probably better off actually splitting them up. And same thing with probably any duo. I was putting the duos together, as you can sort of see. It's actually probably better to split them. So like moving Noelle over here, moving Sifi and Rotus into separate decks is probably a good tip. Minaya, Coronar, I think are good. Move them to separate decks. Didn't use Armand's, I think, once, but he would be good for the waves. I didn't need it. I actually used Supreme Kale a ton for the waves. Didn't need him, but he wrecked the waves really quick. Actually, He-Man's very good for waves because he hits super hard and he self-buffs, so he's a great wave killer if you have him. I didn't use Gurgo once, but he would be very nice for waves. I was trying to auto through, and his auto AI is terrible, so I didn't use him much. Mad Hatter was great. Actually, really nice. Lots of utility. He was very helpful. Used him for some waves, but he wasn't essential, just damage, really. And Korra is extremely good. Narcies I didn't use once, I don't think. Krisk's I did use, as I talked about. I used Fina a little bit, but again, she's pretty rubbish on auto, so yeah. But broadly speaking, overview, there you are. Check out my sleeper champions. There are definitely a few champions such as Morrigan or Manaya. Crazy, I know, but will definitely come in here instead of a few of these, to be honest. Like, I will be switching them up. So yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if you draft like a full, if half, I don't know, how many champions do you need that are really damage anyway? Like, you probably only want 2 out of 5 champions to be damaged. Like, it's pretty rare. Some of the mimic fights, you could run 3 damage dealers, but you kind of do want to lean more on supports than on the damage, broadly speaking. So yeah, I'm more focused on the key buffs and debuffs. This is where I'm at. Yeah, let me know what you think about that. But that's yeah. Let me see. Increase cooldowns. Throw that in as well, because Fabian, pretty much, right? Fabian is great for the waves. It's really helpful. Especially, in fact, I'm going to say I might even just definitely bring some increased cooldowns. The Fabian, like, if you run into, it's a great example. Like, if I'm fighting this if Wither is a boss, Wither removes all debuffs. So I can stun the wave, but if she's just going to remove their stun, what am I going to do? It's very easy to deal with if I can. In this case, I just kill them, right? But becomes a lot easier to deal with if you do lock out their skills, increase their skills. That's pretty helpful. There you go. Hopefully it was helpful, folks. Like I said, for me, the biggest thing I missed, if you're looking at these decks here, the big thing I was missing, heal reduction. Like, seriously. Heal reduction is the big thing I'm missing for these frickin' I didn't even try to fight half of them because I was like, it's just going to take bloody ages. But heal reduction for me was the big thing I forgot, and it would have really helped with this stinking stage as well. Yeah. Heal reduction was the big one I didn't bring. That I definitely regret. Yep. There you go. Hopefully it's helpful, folks. I will see you next time. Good luck with Grim Forest when it comes out. I will probably do videos on my first couple of days or something. I don't know, maybe the whole first month. Haven't quite decided, but there you go. Deck building 101. Some key tips and stuff to look for. I suppose generally any mythicals and any just generally really good champions are obviously going to be generally really good as well. Just in general. Generally. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.